What's up, bloggers? Pete from Do You Even Blog here. I want to come in with a really quick video to say farewell to BoardBooster for Pinterest marketing for bloggers, right? And give a really quick overview of all of you transitioning over to Tailwind, either for the first time or now utilizing Tailwind solely for your Pinterest marketing, Pinterest traffic strategies for your blog. Let's go. Okay, first let me just give you a really broad overview of the things I use to keep track of my pinning schedules, what group boards I'm pinning to, stuff like that. So BoardBooster, I don't even talk about it. You know what BoardBooster is, you probably used it before. It did a lot of things automatically and it was nice. You can kind of set up schedules and so forth. Not quite as much in the automation territory in Tailwind yet, but there are some things you can do to help organize and keep track of your pinning. So, first of all, this is Tailwind. I'll give you a 60-second tour. Obviously, scheduled pins are under schedule pins. This shows you based on my schedule, which we'll look at in just a second. Over here, you can kind of change and edit the descriptions and drag stuff around if you really want to. The schedule you will set here, and this is across all of your boards. Okay, this is not one board that you're setting a schedule to. This is everything, all of your pins, your group boards, your personal boards, right? This is, you'll see the colors here. The solid ones are where I'm currently pinning. The gray ones, I could pin there, but these are actually suggestions in the light green. Yeah, add suggested time slot. I could do that. I'm pinning roughly 38 to 40 times a day right now. It used to be about 30 to 32. And a couple of weeks ago, I decided to switch things up, pin more frequently just to see what happens. You can set your time zone, all this great stuff. But the important thing to remember, unlike BoardBooster, more like Tailwind, this is your pinning schedule for everything, okay? All group boards are just going to be rotated throughout each one of these time slots. Can you see my mouse right here? Let me open highlighter. There you go. Now you can see my mouse a little bit. Yeah, so these are going to be across all of your group boards, okay? Something handy, though, is what's called board list. You need to know this if you're just starting out on Tailwind. Specifically, you can create as many of these as you want to, and this is where you can segment, quote unquote, your different group boards or your personal boards. You could have one just for personal boards. You click to add a list right here. You can call it whatever you want to. I'm going to call it personal boards. Type board name, it might be Grow Your Blog Quick, and then Pinterest Marketing Strategies. Those are two of my personal boards. Okay, that's great. I'm not gonna delete it right now. I have one blogging one right here. I have another one right here. You could create these based on different rules. So in BoardBooster, you set up your pin, you told it which group boards it was gonna go to, all this other great stuff. You can set up board list to kind of mimic that. Let's say you have one group board that only allows for posting once a week. I don't know of any that do it quite like that, but let's say blog community most repin had some rules where it was like only pin less than once a week or something like that, right? You could come in here and create a separate board list that says all of these boards pin to, I pin to like once a week. And you got to keep track of that manually. We'll get to that in just a second. But you can kind of mimic how many boards you post to, what boards you post to, when, how often, that sort of stuff. The only downside is right now, until they release Smart Loop, which is coming very soon, you got to kind of track it on your own. You got to kind of track which pins you're posting where on your own. Now you can see a history in here, but that's not the same, right? So here's what I have. I have a blogging. I blog about blogging, obviously, and YouTube and podcast about blogging. Blogging 1, blogging 2. I have this one. These group boards are specifically like business related. These are money related. I have more than a few. I just created this one the other day. Pinterest marketing, specifically just Pinterest strategies, etc. So those are my different board lists that I go to. Smart Loop, again, is going to mimic some of those evergreen recycling features like you see in BoardBooster, but it's in beta phase. Beta phase. You can go reserve my spot. You'll be sent to a little form, a survey that you have to fill out. I'm hoping to get into that soon. So really quick, let me show you my process for keeping track of stuff. This is Dead simple. I've seen a lot of bloggers do stuff way more complicated. That just kind of hurts my head. I try and keep it as simple as humanly possible. I have a Google Sheet here. This is actually how I run like my entire business, as you can see. I put down posts. I just started doing this like a month or two ago. I was doing something different. Wasn't working as well. I found this to be more effective for me. I write down my post here. This is like just little names of blog posts and podcasts that I have. Date pinned, and then I've started adding, only this week, recently, the URL of the actual pin I'm pinning. So here's what I do, okay? I'm gonna do 2 right now. I need to reshare this how to monetize a blog post right now. So I'm actually gonna come in here and just find my Pinterest image, which I think is at the very bottom. Or I could just use like my Tailwind thing up here. Here it is. Let's do this one. Actually, no, I won't go into Google Analytics right now. I'll just do this one. I'm gonna click that. I'm gonna go schedule, and I'm gonna schedule this to all my blogging group boards. Obviously, type of board name, blogging. Okay, that's my board list that I just chose. And then blogging 2. There we go. I got those. It already has a description in there. I'm not going to mess with that for right now. I probably should. I'll put in maybe some tags. I don't know if this will work or not. I'm not really keeping up on up-to-date stuff. Add to queue. All right. Let me show you what that did exactly. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go into my Tailwind and refresh, and you'll see this is tacked them onto the bottom across all of those group boards, okay? Here's a group board, here's a group board, here's a group board, here's a group board. If you hover over it, it'll actually show you which group board it is, of course. I'm gonna shuffle this because I like to keep all my, I'm gonna shuffle it in a minute, actually. I like to shuffle it just so when people come in here and look at my Pinterest profile, they're not just seeing like, oh, you shared the same pin like 70 times in a row. That will mean that sometimes you might be sharing to group boards twice in one day. Maybe 3 times. I don't know if you get really unlucky. If you have like 5 or 6 different pins, all of which pin to the same group board eventually, like let's say this pin pins to Blogging Pros group board. I obviously have that somewhere down in here, Blogging Pros group board. If I hit shuffle, they could pin back to back. That might look spammy. Now, there's not a great way to really filter that out in Tailwind just yet, but all I can really say is you definitely don't want to pin the same pin twice, which is why I keep track of what I'm pinning over here. So I just sent that in my queue, how to monetize. I'm going to put today's date down in here. Today is the 29th, 6/29. And the pin URL, I should just go grab one. Excuse me, apologies. I'll do this later. But I will grab the pin URL that I pinned and put it in there. Or I could actually, if I wanted to, I'll just say pinned from post. For me, that would tell me exactly which pin I pinned. I pinned from the post, my how to monetize post. Every now and then I go in Google Analytics and pick out some of my best performing pins based on how much traffic they sent me. And I keep track of those URLs right here. So after I do that, I'm gonna refilter this. You'll notice I have this descending dates right here. A to Z. So once this reaches the bottom, I haven't actually kept track of these yet. I'm just gonna start at the top every time. Like after these are already posted over the next week or two, I'll come back up here and I'll recycle Fred, okay? And then after that, I will recycle my headlines post. After that, self-publishing, etc., etc., etc. And I'll just keep refreshing this. I will keep sorting it A to Z, and it will tell me the stuff at the top has not been pinned recently, or it'll tell me exactly when it was pinned. Now, there's only one more little piece to this puzzle. This is maybe kind of a bonus. You can probably stop watching the video. This is my entire Pinterest process, by the way. I'm super lazy. I don't really care about Pinterest because the traffic it sends me is not completely amazing, but it does continue to send me traffic, so I get in here. I do pin stuff. I like this simple approach. You can do something different. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle these. I'll pin Susie from Start a Mom Blog. I had her on the podcast. I'll repin this in a second. With this pin, I created a pin to split test down there. So the only other thing I really recommend people doing in Tailwind specifically is coming in down here into Board Insights, filtering by group boards only. You see right here, you can filter what kind of boards, secret boards, regular boards, and this will show me a little bit of the data, a little bit of the analytics into which boards are performing better than others. If you are on the expensive Tailwind plan, which I'm not, you can actually change this to get a current virality rate and export it. I can't export right now because, I'm not on the really expensive plan, which is kind of silly. But I can do my own math. This virality score is across the life of the entire group board. Can I just sort this? These are bad. You can see my group boards are terrible. Look at these. I mean, this is really bad. Some of these, 0.11, this is ridiculous. That's a terrible group board. Anywho, but this is across the entire lifespan of the board, across 10,000 pins and 1,200 repins, etc. The last 7 days is actually way more important. So I've heard a bunch of people utilize this tactic as well. A lot of people will come in here and calculate their own current virality score by simply dividing this number and this number, right? Last 7 days pins, last 7 day repins. I ignore followers, I ignore engagement scale. Some people can look at that, some people don't. I like to calculate just this really basic 7 day virality score, and I will take the top 80% on any given day. I will come through here. I do this once a quarter at this point. I haven't done this in 2 to 3 months now. I will come in here for each one of these. I will put it in a Google Sheet. I will calculate that. I don't think I have it in this one. No, I don't. And I will drop the bottom 10%. And what that means for Tailwind specifically, I will find the 10% with the lowest virality scores. I will remove them from my board list. So I'll come in here for my board list. Where's that? I'll find them and I'll take those bad boys off because they're not doing me any good. Actually, most of my group boards aren't doing me any good personally, but I would recommend starting with the bottom 10%, the bottom 20%, and removing those. And also, when I do this, just a quick note, I come in here and change my schedule whenever I do that. I will drop down my posting to, I don't know, I had it at 38, 40 pins a day down in my schedule. I'll drop it down depending on how many boards I removed. So if I remove 5 or 6 board, I might do 35 times a day or, 36 times a day. If I remove 10 boards, 20 boards, I'll actually bring this down a lot, 20, 25 pins a day, just because I don't want to be spamming the group boards for one thing. And then two, I've actually seen bigger engagement numbers when I pin less. I'm trying this pinning 40 times a day strategy right now, but I've actually seen the most results when I pin around 30. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Anywho, that's just a super quick, broad overview. I don't have time to go into super deep Tailwind strategy or pincher strategy or whatnot, but that's what I do. I create my pins, sometimes 2 or 3. Here's all my pins for the past month or 2. I will make alternates. You can see I copied this one. I have 2 A/B test pins right here. I will pin them. Whenever I do that, whenever I pin anything, whenever I add anything to my schedule, specifically using board list is what I use, I'll come in here in my tracker, I'll put in the date I did that, and I'll usually make a comment. I'm just starting to do this now. Or the URL of the pin that I pinned. And then I'm moving on. And then I'll come in here and shuffle my queue. A couple of days later, I'll do it again. Once this smart loop feature is out, I'll have to do another video. I'll actually have to do another course. But that is how I kind of keep track of my Tailwind stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please consider sticking around. This is super laid back, unproduced, unedited sort of video, but you'll have to, I was trying to get it out really quickly. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, of course. Come listen to the podcast. That's probably the most valuable thing that I put out. You can find me at doyouevenblog.com, of course, /podcast if you really want to see this stuff and listen to people like Susie, who is, even better at Pinterest than I am for sure, or Michelle Schroeder, or Roseby Groner, or Johnny Dumas, or Neil Patel, or Brian Dean, or any of these guys. The podcast is where it's at. And that's it. That's all I got. Thank you for watching, bloggers, and I'll see you guys next time.